Hey everybody, Kyle Goth here from GoatFilmReviews.com and the Goat Film Reviews YouTube channel, and I've got my first reaction to the new Netflix film, Emilia, Perez. This is directed, I've got my notes here, directed by Jacques Audiard, who had done, I think, The Brothers, Sisters, and a few other films. This is my first film from of Jacques that I've actually seen. It basically follows a lawyer, played by Zoe Saldana, who has been tasked by a cartel boss to essentially help put the affairs in order so that they can transition and go into hiding. Essentially, they're going to leave their family kind of behind, fake their death, and go into hiding so that they can begin the life that they've always wanted. And as we can see, that they want that life, but they also want their old life in some ways as well, too. And so there's this interesting juxtaposition of can I have it all? Can I really, be the person that I know I am and also keep elements of my family together, which is a really hard thing to ask. And it's an interesting question that I think a lot of people have to go through when they are making, those life decisions about, like, do I, I want to fulfill the person that I really am. Can I do that? Because it just never seems like everyone ends up happy in those situations, which is really hard for people. But what we have here is Zoe Saldana is great as the lead. She's Rita. She's kind of the lead, but she's also kind of not. It's hard to tell because at any given point in the film, there's three different lead characters to the film. So they really shouldn't have called it Emilia Perez, because there's multiple different characters that are running around this film. The character of Emilia is played by Carlos Sofia Gascon. That's the mob cartel boss that transitions. And a lot of the film is on their shoulders as they have to kind of deal with the repercussions of this very emotional decision that, again, is who they want to be, but that doesn't always mean that you get to have everything else that came before, too, and I think they deal with those repercussions really nicely. There's also Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez plays the mob cartel boss's wife, so she gets a lot to do as well, but she's also been maybe cheating on her spouse. And so you have a lot of questions about, getting those kinds of characters together and how they maneuver about. We get a really nice little pair for Edgar Ramirez. I like Edgar Ramirez. He's not always like a main character in a movie, but it seems like he's willing to pop up in these like little 10-minute characters, and I really appreciate that. Performances across the board are great. This is kind of a spoken word musical for a large portion of it. Kind of had some like Hamilton-esque vibes in the cadence that the characters were speaking. It's not a jukebox musical like Joker Folie à Deux was. It's not a traditional musical, but it's got a lot of musical elements to it. It's hard to describe Emilia Perez. Much like its title character, there's so much more going on than we can even fathom. And this music explodes outward. It's a very physical movie. The characters are singing. They're belting out their emotions. It's hard to watch sometimes because you see them basically bearing their souls on the table, and it's really incredible performances. I think the physicality, specifically some sequences where Rita, the lawyer, is kind of singing about what she's going through and really using her body, and it's a very physical performance from Zoe Saldana. A really great performance. In fact, multiple characters in the film, their performances are brought out through the physicality. It's the way in which their hips move, the way in which they react to seeing something, the way in which they react when they're with someone. Really beautiful performances, and I think the music really elevates that and makes it into kind of its own unique thing. Let's see here. Yeah, it feels to me like a movie that is big, and it is bold, and it is aggressive. And it's also occasionally really angry. And then there's also these moments of tenderness. And I think that's the really interesting thing that this director is able to get, is he's able to get all of these different kinds of emotions and bottle them in a film where it doesn't feel jarring when they switch from one mode to another. I think director Jacques Audiard was able to really take all of these elements and he introduces them to you early on in the film, so that way, as we make the shifts between characters and between emotional arcs and between story arcs, it doesn't seem that jarring. And it really feels like, as I describe it even in my head, I feel like this movie had to have been more jarring when they made these choices. It's not. And I think that's what's really great about Emilia Perez. Is it's one of the most unique films I've seen in years. It makes full use of its 2 hours and 15 minutes. It is like tragic at times, funny at times, emotional at times, loving at times. It's very tense at times, especially some of the sequences early on with Rita that make you question really what Rita is willing to go through in the search of who she really is and in the search of what she wants out of life, because she keeps saying yes to people that don't give her what she wants because she feels like she has to. And in some ways we kind of agree with that, but we also want to see her find that purpose, find who she is. And really embrace the life she wants to live. And so that's why she was an interesting character. There's a lot of really interesting characters in this film. So overall, Emilia Perez, great movie. Really enjoyed it. Comes out on Netflix in a couple of weeks. It's currently, I believe, in a very limited number of theaters, probably to get that Oscar consideration. And I do think this film will get a lot of awards consideration. It's a fascinating study. Some great music that, even though it's spoken word, there are a couple of songs that are still rattling around in my head that I'll probably listen to if the soundtrack becomes available on Spotify or something. I like the soundtrack. I like the performances. I like the writing. I liked the interactions of all the characters in the film. There's another one I didn't even mention that Adriana Paz plays. And so these two have been through some things together. On different sides of the coin, actually, where their interactions are different because of what Emilia has kind of set forth with their life and what Adriana Paz's character is dealing with on the other side of that. And there's kind of that connection that they have there that's really fascinating. So overall, it's a great movie, and it's one that I feel like I don't appreciate as much because I need to watch it again, because it is such a unique film, because it is such a unique experience. I'm actively excited for when it hits Netflix, and I really can't wait for you to see it as well. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought about Emilia Perez once that you've seen the film. Again, it's in theaters right now. Will be on Netflix, I think, on the 15th, near the middle of the month. So go ahead and check it out when it becomes available, and then come on back and share your thoughts on it. I'm so excited for you to see this film. You can also find goatfilmreviews.com for my many written reviews. You can find Goat Film Reviews on Facebook. You can follow me personally at Almighty Goatman on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads. You can find my show Kyle and Nick on Film that I co-host with Nick Plotchuk from the St. Paul Filmcast. We have new episodes of that show every single week. You can also find a link in the description of this video for the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance, of which I am a member. You can find other film critic reviews as well as more of my stuff located over there. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.